Another conversation. We have a guest, but you've heard of her before. It's our lovely correspondent from the UK, Myrna Loy. She is the founder and managing editor of Black Bright News, which can be found at issues.com/Black Bright News. However, in keeping with the times, she frequently vlogs on current issues on YouTube. So hard copies are produced biannually. Myrna Loy, a.k.a. Lady Loy, is also a DJ and radio presenter on Lovers Rock Radio. Lady Loy enjoys supporting artists' journey to recognition and constantly headhunting new reggae artists. Lady Loy sets the gold standards for reggae on Lovers Rock Radio. So it's loversrockradio.com on Fridays from 8 to 11. That's UK time. Lady Loy. What? Go on.
No, it's 7 till 9 UK time.
7 to 9 UK time. Okay. Sorry. Lady Loy has interviewed celebrities such as the Guinness Book of Records, skateboarder Martin Dayton, multi-award winner author Ego Code, Clayton John Anger, reggae artists such as Iba Mar, Milton Blake, Cargo, Bungo Kenny, Steel, Tezza, Backbones, French Job, Leroy Gibbons, The Tenors, to name a few. Life experiences, failures, have led to success is what drives Loy to be prolific. Loy is the publisher of Black Bright News, as we stated before. My co-host, Chris Daly, will be doing the interview, so take it away, Chris.
Thank you, Janice, and welcome, Myra. It's good to dialogue with you again.
Okay.
Great. We've had the privilege of dialoguing in the past, but we have new listeners. So if you could take a moment and just share a little about your Jamaican roots for us.
Well, I'm born in the UK. My parents were Jamaican. My mother was born in Clarendon and my father in Christiana. But my embryo was conceived in Jamaica.
Okay.
I visit Jamaica. I haven't visited there recently, but I've been there about 5 or 6 times.
Okay, great. What got us together the last time and what's getting us together this time is immigration.
Yeah.
Our dialogue today is about immigration in the UK. How did your folks get to engage with the UK?
When you say engage with the UK, what do you mean?
As far as make their immigration to the UK.
Do you mean when my parents came over, do you mean? Their journey to the UK?
Yes, yeah. How did they, yes.
Okay, well, my mother, she came over in 1952. She came on the boat like everybody else, I believe, and ended up at Waterloo Station. At that point, she thought she was going to be housed by a friend, but when she went to the station, a friend's boyfriend said she couldn't stay, so she ended up staying in shared accommodation at the time. She got a job as a seamstress, which wasn't too long after she came to the country, and she saved up by working long hours for a house and met her husband and managed to get a house by the time I was 7.
Incredible. Well, you're in the right space to somebody to talk about because you're a media professional.
Yes.
For the youngsters who may be curious, what motivated you to have this choice, and how do you practice your craft?
Well, to be honest, what motivated me was to motivate others. And, you know, there's a lot of misinformation. And the thing with being a media professional, it means that you have to be very disciplined. Comes with a lot of responsibility. And I just wanted to be in a position to be able to inform people, especially black people, about what's going on, but doing it in a more objective way and not an emotive way. A lot of the media professionals tend to create drama and create fear.
Mm-hmm.
And so I try to give a more balanced viewpoint on what's happening.
Thank you for that. That's so important. But today we were talking about a pretty emotional topic. And I'm glad we have somebody like you to actually help us navigate it. Is that of immigration practices in a world where nationalism is taking root? What's your sense of the spirit of the day in your country that Brexit and other issues are at the forefront?
Okay, well, I think what's at the root is the change of immigration. In 1971, they had an immigration policy, and the immigration policy gave Commonwealth citizens the right to remain. Now, when my mother came over here in 1952, she was actually a British subject, and that was then changed, I think, about 4 years later, and they were able to, everybody at that time was automatically given the right to remain, and they became British citizens. Now, more recently, since Theresa May came into power, they've reversed that Immigration Act with the Hostile Environment Policy. And the Hostile Environment Policy says, unless you can show papers that you're legally in this country, you're going to be deported. Now, people in the 1950s, and then what they wanted, even though they've changed it now, was 4 pieces of identification for every year you've been in the country. Now, they've changed that, but they're still requiring ID, and I don't know what they're asking people to produce to prove that they've been in the country all the time. They said they've been here and been here legally, because the Home Office claims that they can't find all the papers. They destroyed all the papers when they did this green paper thing. And so all these people, all these Windrush immigrants don't have that paperwork. And if they can't show the paperwork, they're unable to access the NHS for health. They're unable to get jobs, and they're unable to be housed because the landlords are being told that you cannot rent to people who can't show their British passport, and they can't give jobs to people who are not coming there with a British passport. And that's the situation at the moment. It's really quite diabolical. Even doctors are not being allowed to work because they won't renew their visa. So that's the situation as it is now.
Okay, and they're called Windrush for a reason, Windrush generation. Explain to folks, how did that label got established?
Well, there were 2 ships before the Windrush. Those 2 ships, I think one of the gentlemen came on the Jasmine. And the ships that came before the Windrush were actually cruise ships. And so, but the Windrush was the first charter boat to bring people from the Caribbean, like Jamaica, to the UK, specifically to work, specifically based on invitation. The ones before that might have come through the army, they might have come through other means. But the Windrush got that name because that was the name of the charter that brought them over here.
And the motivation for this, these was the post-World War II folks who are there to help rebuild the country. Am I correct?
Yeah. But the motivation behind this atmosphere now is because Theresa May promised to reduce immigration. There's a lot of people who are ignorant about what immigration is, and the assumption is that all blacks are immigrants. They're confusing illegal immigrants with legal immigrants. There's an unclear policy. There's pedantic practices. There's not an understanding of what the Nationality Act of 1948 means. They're failing to distinguish between those who were invited and those who came on their own free will. And it's creating fear and instability. It's absolutely ridiculous.
So the Prime Minister has taken action, but there are other, I'm not sure, the audience here is an American audience, and we're used to the balance of power. What authority does she have? Is there any opposition to this policy within the parliament?
Well, we've got David Lammy. He's representing the people. He's got a very strong voice. And yes, because of him, they have overturned a lot of things. They're saying now that they will pay for these people to come back. Those who were here before 1973, they're promising to pay for their citizenship papers. But people are afraid that if they come up and say they haven't got citizenship papers, that they're going to be shipped off. And there's no guarantee what's going to happen if they do want to have those citizenship papers, because some people just thought, well, I've got a right to remain. Why do I need these citizenship papers? But now it's come that they do need them. And so if they don't have them, that's going to be a problem.
The Prime Minister of Jamaica, Holness, was recently in England. What was the impact of that visit, and how was the Windrush issue played out in his stay?
Well, he was quite tactful. He was very articulate. He was unbiased. He was more concerned with human rights and people being treated fairly, and that they should be compensated for the unfair treatment. That was basically his take on it.
But they did not have any sway in the debate. What kind of impact did that have in the debate, or is that not even considered?
Well, I don't think. The thing is that he can speak on behalf of the Jamaicans who have been treated unfairly. He did not. He said there was no evidence that he knew of that people had been deported, but we know that they have. So when that happens, it kind of leaves you feeling a bit, unsettled, so to speak, because if there's no acknowledgement that people have been deported, he said that there are people who left here to go to Jamaica for a vacation were not allowed to come back. But he said there's no figures or there's no evidence to show that people were deported. But we know that people have been deported. And the Migrant Office, although they're not putting Caribbeans in their category of deportation figures, we know that it's happening. But for some reason, it's being hush-hush. I don't know why.
Are there other nationalities also being adversely affected?
Yes,
we have,
a lot of. If we've got the EU,
and what are
and I think that is where it's gone slightly wrong as far as what they thought. They thought they was focusing on a small group. They didn't look at the wider picture of Italians, of people from the EU, of, it does affect more than Caribbeans, it affects the Africans, it affects a lot of people. And it also, I was talking to some young people today, and they were saying, one of the young girls, her boyfriend is from Jamaica, and she's not even sure if it's going to affect him. So it goes all the way down the chain.
Wow, it's broad, wide and deep. Now, if we back up at the 30,000-foot view, we know there's a strong strain of nationalism globally that's happening. There's also technological change that's affecting the need for labor and the skills needed that folks have. How conscious what are some of the factors you think are driving it, and are folks conscious of some of these effects in play that's affecting the way folks look at immigration?
Well, I think with regard to labour needs, it is encouraging self-employment. It's encouraging people to start their own business. They're not relying on the public sector so much, and they're more likely to try and get jobs with the government. So if that's how the impact of the labour market is kind of working at the moment.
So last time we had talked, it was around the issue of that prison being built in Jamaica, and that was tied to the deportation issue. Is there any way to connect the dots here as to the overall government policy and how going forward?
Well, it just tries to show you how calculating the government is to think so far in advance. There's been 600, I think, Jamaican citizens in UK jails who have more than 18 months left to serve, and they will be deported in 2020. I'm not quite sure even now if Jamaica took the 25 million to build the prison. I remember back then there was some kind of debate on whether they should or whether they shouldn't. But I think from what I've read, it's likely that they were kind of forced to, because what the UK is saying is that they can't pay 36,000 to keep looking after their people. So
it's £36,000 a year for each prisoner.
For each prisoner. So in 2020, Jamaica's going to get an influx of about 600 Jamaicans who finished their jail term.
There must be a sense of fear and foreboding within the Jamaican community. Could you give us a sense of what that fear is like and what level of organization exists within the community to actually be able to have a formalized protest against this?
Well, there is, because you can imagine, okay, those who came here within 1948 and 1973, most of them maybe not even be alive now, they can feel relatively secure now for the time being. But those who came after 1973, they're wondering what's going to happen to them. So there is that instability. So many of them have bought homes in the country. Many of them have built their own little businesses. Many of them, for this is their home, they haven't been back. So it's bound to be a time of instability and fear for them. And then you have the fear of children losing their grandparents or their parents, depending on those kind of circumstances. And it really is quite a sad state of affairs.
Is there an organized community groups that can represent them and give them that sense of support?
Well, you've got a lot of little groups. I don't want to say they're jumping on the bandwagon, but you have a lot of groups who are protesting about it. I think there's been petitions going around. I heard yesterday that there was a Windrush event that spoke of the Windrush story through narrative and song. But there's nothing... and then I think the other day I saw this gathering where people were talking about it, but there's no leader. You see, David Lammy, who's the Labour MP, he's very articulate. I mean, he would be a very good leader for people to have, but he's confined within the confines of his job, so he can't take that on. So there's no one person who is saying, who's going to speak on behalf of the people. There are solicitors and lawyers trying to exploit and saying, look, we'll help you out with your paperwork. Let us know if you're in Jamaica. Let us know if you've been deported. But there's no one place where people can confide in and think, yeah, I feel safe here. I can talk about my situation. This person can help me. I don't think that exists.
The other place where usually you have robust and energetic protests is within young people and university types. Is there any protests among young people or even alliances from college that may speak to the morality of the issue in a wider basis?
I think you'll find the young people, because they're born here and their parents are born here, it's very difficult for them to relate to what's going on. Now, I was talking to my brother's children who are in their 30s, between their 20s and 30s, and they were saying that if their grandmother, who's my mother, got deported, I mean, she's actually citizen, so she's okay. But if she, hypothetically, if she got deported, it would affect her because my gran is their world, and that was their words, not mine. So, in the sense that if their mothers and fathers or, extended family were affected, then they'd stop and think, hey, hold on a minute. This does impact me. I've got to do something about it. But I don't think at the moment that they're thinking about that. My nieces were saying they heard about it, but they weren't really paying it any attention. But this 94-year-old man, I'm putting the video up later, who I interviewed today, was actually enlightening them about it. So they are a bit more aware. But unless somebody's telling them about it, they're not going to be aware that it, and unless it affects them, they're not going to be interested.
Yeah, so there's not a big emotional thing to support that kind of, it's right now it's just academic. It's not hitting the heart. Most of the young people.
No, who it's affecting are those in their maybe 80s, 90s, say from 60 till 90. That's who it's affecting. That's where the emotional backlash. The most vulnerable people in this society right now, the UK society, they are the most vulnerable because they're older, they're more dependent. They're dependent on the pensions, which they stopped. They took away their pensions, and they've been working for their pensions all their lives. And provided you work 33 years continually, you're entitled to your full pension. They stopped their pensions, shipped them off to Jamaica, or stopped them, and they're not giving them any money. So you can imagine.
Yeah, the morality of it is astoundingly bad.
It's absolutely horrific.
So, well, we just pray that somebody rallies and people's eyes are open to actually see how despicable this is and take the necessary action.
I think people have to understand that this action affects us all. This is the start of it. It's just the beginning. It's not the end. And I think people need to really be alert and aware. The government has failed in this ploy to reduce their numbers in immigration because they made a blunder. But they'll be working on a more full-safe way in the future. And that full-safe way will affect our young. It will affect everybody, I believe.
Tease that out for later. If you look out in your crystal ball 5 to 10 years, what are some of the implications of if we continue down this path?
Well, it's not very positive.
And what kind of numbers are we talking? Do we have numbers that of affected potentials here?
Well, they said, throwing a figure out, they said 9 million people are going to be affected. But, looking at the crystal ball, all I can see is reinforcing us to feel more insecure, more unstable, to make us, to have the element of control. And I don't think, unless we have some really vigilant people who can speak on behalf and who know how to tackle it in a moderate way and in a way that will get through to those at the top, I don't know what's going to happen. It's all a part of the big plan, isn't it? You can go into prophecy must fulfill, all of these kind of things, end times. But what we're dealing with now is just the start of putting us right back where we started. And that's basically what it is.
Yeah. I figured, between in the next few years, there will be an election. But I don't get the sense from what you're saying that this will be issue weighing in the public debate at that time?
No, I don't think so. I think at the moment the Conservative Party are going to be working on trying to rectify this wrong as much as possible, but then they're going to go to the next level. So they don't want to be seen as doing anything wrong, and I don't even know if I don't think it was deliberate. I just think it was lack of foresight, and I don't think they anticipated someone like David Lammy speaking out. I don't think they anticipated people getting together, the extended family getting together and making an uproar about it. So the extended family, there's been so many, it's been on the news, it's really highlighted, so people are aware. And so it's just about, giving, especially for those people who've been here all those years, recompensing them and making sure that they have come back. I don't know what they're going to do with their houses because they made them leave their houses and they've lost their jobs. So when even if they were allowed to come back, what are they going to do? How secure are they going to feel? So it's a very, very difficult situation.
Once, Dave, as we close here, that occurred to me, I'm not sure what the legal, is there any legal recourse such as a class action suit that could be used to slow down or even to engage folks, or what's that possibility like within the legal structure of Great Britain?
Well, that's what I was saying. There are people out there who want to say that they're going to represent them legally, but once again, I'm concerned that they're taking advantage of vulnerable people. I'm not quite sure how authentic these are. That's why I'm saying that they need to rebuild trust, because right now their trust is at their lowest, and quite rightly so. So we need to know that if there is a legal representative, I haven't seen one. I've only seen a couple that have written to me and said, if you know anybody who's affected by the Windrush, put them in touch with me. I don't even know who you are. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
So I'm not going to put anybody in touch with somebody who might exploit them and when they're most vulnerable. So I don't know. Maybe there are legal people out there, but I don't know of them.
To do it on a one-to-one basis doesn't seem to be to go. You need more like a class action to represent everybody, and get that kind of scale.
Yes, exactly.
Well, I'm glad. Yeah, I'm so glad that we have somebody like you there, keeping us informed and keeping the larger community informed that we can be educated and be in touch to support our loved ones, especially in their vulnerable years. So thank you so much, Myrna Loy, for your courage and doing this.
Was people here? Do you have people here, I was going to say?
I do. I have an uncle there. He's retired a few years ago. I think I only have one relative still there, but I do have relatives there. So.
And he's okay, is he? Has he got all his papers and everything that you know of?
Yes, from all that I know.
Okay, good. Okay then, well, it's my pleasure.
So it was so to learn more about Jamaican diaspora, visit JamaicanDiaspora.com. To learn more about Chris Daly, visit media2grow.com/VIP. To learn more about Myrna Loy, visit issues.com/BlackBrightNews, loversrockradio.com, Facebook.com, it's Luton Loy, Twitter, Lady_Loy, Instagram, Empress_Lady Loy, Mixcloud.com/Lady-Loy. Myrna, we hope to be talking to you again on other important things back over in the pond, and we appreciate spending some time with you. Bye now.
Thank you. Bye-bye.